Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to me having fun today. Because today I get to deal with a person that I have loved, admired, listened to for a long time. In 1987, I was headed to Orlando for a rehearsal that I didn't want to go to. I rarely do things I don't want to do. So, as I was headed to Orlando, a friend called me and said, "Hey man, Art Blake and the Messengers are going to be at USF today." I go, "What?" "Yeah, they're doing a clinic in the afternoon in just about 30 minutes. Well, I never made that rehearsal in Orlando. I was not about to miss Art Blake and the Messengers. No way. So, did my little turn, got off the interstate, came back, went to USF, stayed in the auditorium, and there he is, smiles and moving around. Bohanna himself. Yes, sir, Art Blakey. You got a good band, people I know, some I don't. And then there's this little cat, young cat, standing there looking like he is lost in space. I'm like, who is that guy? I never seen him before. I wonder why he up there. Well, it didn't take long to figure it out. Because that young guy put the sax in his mouth and started playing. I went, oh my God, what is that? And it wasn't like he was one of these overly anxious, dancing, jumping around kind of guys. Nope. He stood straight up like a soldier. Stood there, you could hardly see his fingers moving. But man, he was burning that saxophone up. And later I found out that he was a new addition to Art Blakey's band. He'd only been there for a year, and he was just starting his career. Matter of fact, he come out of high school and college and went directly into Duke Ellington's band. Moved to New York, met Bohanna, and Bohanna hired him on the spot. He became one of the jazz messengers. Yeah, there's that Kenny Garrett up there on that stage. And he's blowing some sax. But he's not like the impressive, a lot of fast notes and high notes and squeaks and squawks and holding notes for a long time and all that stuff. He's playing music. Serious, serious music. And it's effortless. Just tons of music just falling off him. I say, I got to make note of him because I know he's not coming back here anymore because Tampa just ain't hip for jazz, baby. And that was right. That was 1987, and he didn't come back here again until he was a member of the Miles Davis band. And it wasn't long after, because he didn't stay with Bohanna but a couple of years, and by 1988, I see him at Ruth Eckerd Hall with Miles Davis Electric Band. So he goes from straight ahead, hard bop, post bop, to Miles Davis electric stuff. And this time he's moving more. He got on all the fancy clothes that Miles was wearing at that time, so he's playing that role. But the one thing it didn't change was all the music that was just falling off him. It was so great that I noticed that Kenny would play a line and then Miles would duplicate the line. Like Miles was kind of taking lessons from Kenny G on stage. Did I say Kenny G? I'm sorry. I meant Kenny Garrett. We don't need to make no confusions here. All you got to do is listen to him play, and you know which one I'm talking about. Yes, sirree. So I've been following him, and the one thing that I am really jealous about is that he lives in New York like most everybody, and my youngest son, Greg, lives just across the water in Jersey, and every time he gets to see Kenny Garrett at Malcolm X Park or one of the other parks in Harlem, it's a free concert. And he'll call me from the park and go, I'm having a good cigar, I've had a couple of good drinks, and I'm listening to Kenny Garrett for free. And okay, my day is very, very low. So let's get to the essentials here. Kenny Garrett was born in 1960 in Detroit. Yes, I said Detroit because that's the way we say it. We don't say Detroit. We say Detroit. Get with the hip thing, okay? Detroit. All right. Now, he didn't go to Cass Tech because 1960 was after Cass Tech's heyday. Yeah. So he went to school on the west side, and didn't make a difference. His father was a carpenter, and his mother was a pianist. But his father played the tenor sax as an amateur. And maybe that is why Kenny Garrett does not play the tenor sax. You heard enough from his father's amateurish explorations. Kenny only plays the alto sax and the soprano sax. I ain't touching that tenor. And as soon as he completed his basic education, he got out of Detroit. But Detroit, do you all know anything about Detroit? Did you know that it's one of the biggest trading hubs in this country? Probably not, because you hear a lot of bad things about Detroit. But just look at it. It's a strait that goes right to the Great Lakes. You got Windsor, Ontario, big, big car manufacturer on the Canadian side, and you got Detroit, which is called Motor City, on the other side. So yeah, you got a lot of stuff coming through there, a lot of commerce coming through there. Yes, you do. Unfortunately, most of the people who benefit from that don't live in Detroit, they live outside Detroit. So the city has been depressed for many, many years, but they have the blues. So when you say Detroit, you're talking about the Jones family, Elvin Jones and Thad Jones and Hank Jones. You're talking about Betty Carter, a person that every jazz singer says Betty Carter is the only jazz singer in the world. She's like that. Detroit. Yeah, we can go on and on. Donald Byrd and people like that. Yusuf Lateef. Man, Ron Carter maybe. Yeah, there's so many people come out of Detroit. Detroit been swinging for a long time. But Kenny, he was a latecomer. All those people were gone by the time he came along, so he had to get out of there. So when Duke came through, he played for him. And just like Duke sent for Billy Strayhorn many years before, you remember Kenny, he sent for him. And he stayed with him a good year, year and a half before he went on to Miles and other things. He did not record his first album until 1984. No one wanted to touch him. None of the big companies wanted to touch him. No, I don't know anything about him. We don't know anything about him. And as it was in those years, around the 80s, jazz wasn't selling that well. And America, this is a capitalist country. If you can't make somebody some money, they ain't got no use for you. But the Europeans had a different idea. They wanted to preserve this music. Matter of fact, about the same time, the Japanese bought almost half the jazz recordings catalogs they could find. A lot of great recordings made in the 70s and 80s, and even 90s, are no longer available in America. You have to order them from Japan. Well, the Europeans were a part of that too. So when Kenny made his first recording, it was 1984, and it simply said, introducing Kenny Garrett on a label called Crisscross, which is a label based in the Netherlands. They took a chance. And they produced it, and a lot of other up-and-coming jazz musicians were produced by them, because these guys are coming from Europe and hunting in the village for young, upcoming jazz stars that they could record and promote. Kenny Garrett was very lucky to make that. He didn't stay there long because his star was rising so fast that next thing you know, he's with a major recording company, Manhattan Records. Yeah, big conglomerate thing, and they got all the money to push him, and so now he's getting there. Over his career, and this is since 1984, he has recorded 104 albums with all kinds of people all over the world. He recorded on every continent. Never heard of him? You listened to the wrong stuff, that's why. That's your fault. He has recorded 18 albums under his own name as leader. He has had 14 Best Alto Sax wins from Downbeat Readers' Polls, and Downbeat is the best magazine to read about, learn about, find out what's going on in the jazz scene. Downbeat has always been the number one. I have Downbeat magazines in my collection going back to when I was a kid in high school back in the 60s. It's like that, yeah. He won 14 years consecutive Best Alto Sax. At the same time, he was getting Grammy nominations, not wins. You got 14 of those at the same time. Here's one win of a Grammy, came with a band called the Five-Piece Band. The Five, P-E-A-C-E, gotcha, Five-Piece Band, which was a project led by the great Chick Corea, who used to walk our streets right here. Met him many times. Fine gentleman, fine musician. Well, he is the person that went, man, that Kenny Garrett got something going on. I'm going to put him in this Five-Piece Band, and I'm going to make sure that this album wins a Grammy, because that cat should have won a Grammy a long time ago. And guess what? That's the only Grammy that Kenny Garrett had ever won. Thank you, Chick Corea. Now, let's get back to some other things. What has he done? He's an educator. He cares about this music. He cares about young people. He has publications. What? Yeah. He has transcribed some of his own solos and put them in a book, so young students who can't really listen to it and figure it out can at least read it and go, okay, I see what that is and I can play it. That's published by Hal Leonard. He has another series for students where they can actually play his solos with his rhythm section. He took his sound off the record and just left the sounds of the rhythm section. He gives them a book with his part on it, and so now they can play his part with his rhythm section and become their own version of Kenny Garrett. He's committed to education too, so much so that he was a commencement speaker at Berkeley, and for that occasion, they awarded him a honorary doctorate. Not long after, the French government, not here, the French government gave him the highest honor in arts and letters, the Chevalier Award. He also won one of the last Echo Awards, which was presented by the Republic of Germany. And so internationally, he is well respected, well known, and honored, but not so much here. And he's made that choice. He follows a long legacy of great alto saxophone players. Matter of fact, New York Times has described him as the most significant alto sax player since Charlie Parker. That's saying something, because in Miles Davis's band alone, you got Charlie Parker going back to 1947, when a 17-year-old Miles Davis joined Charlie Parker for the first time on stage. You got Cannonball Adderley, you got Lee Konitz, you got Sonny Fortune, you got so many bad cats. Gary Bartz came through that band. All these are monumentous alto saxophone players, and New York Times is saying all of them put together do not have the significance historically of one Kenny Garrett. And what is he doing? He's doing concerts, of course, and still doing recordings, but he's an educator. He is doing workshops. He's still writing publications, and he is still being honored. Being from Detroit, born in 1960, he came up at a really tough time, because this is the time of riots in the city. Detroit burned. Yeah, he was a kid when Detroit was burning. So he came up in the midst of all of that turmoil and all that racial tension. Suburbs were becoming more and more vanilla. The cities were becoming more and more chocolate. Whenever you check out his music, there'll be things about the ancestors or about codes from the underground, talking about the black codes of the Jim Crow era. All of this was a part of his upbringing. So he has a very Afrocentric consciousness and presence and exterior, because he has a lot of pride in himself and his people, and whenever he makes his music, that comes out even in the titles of the songs, the titles of the albums, and some of the things he says. And then sometimes he'll just have fun. One of the biggest fun pieces I have ever heard is a piece called Happy People. He understands where this music comes from like very few people do. See, we talk all the time about jazz, but very few people know that this is a conglomeration of things. And one of the biggest things is gospel. So when he plays his tune, Happy People, ba-do-do-da, happy people, ba-do-dee-da, you feel like you're in a Baptist church, a black Baptist church, on Sunday morning. You want to dance and clap your hands and shake a little bit, because that's how we do. He can put all of that there. He also has his homeboys traveling with him in his mind, in his soul. There was a great black consciousness movement there that embraced Islam. People changed their names to Islamic names. The great multi-instrumentalist who played with Cannonball Adderley and then went into education, Mr. Yusuf Lateef, who I met in Chicago many years ago, was one of the people that set him on this path of self-pride and uplift. So he's more than a musician. He's more than an alto saxophone player. He's more than 14 Grammy nominations and 14 wins as best saxophone player, alto saxophone player in Downbeat Reader's Poll. He's more than the Echo Award. He's more than all these journalist awards. He's more than playing with Miles Davis at a very young age and starting his career with the great Duke Ellington Orchestra. He's more than all of that, because he is all of that and more. And what makes it really good is he's still going. He's still going. He's a young 62, 63-year-old. He looks great. He sounds great. And if you're smart, you'll go find some Kenny Garrett. And to quote Wynton Marsalis at a concert early in his career, I was down in Sarasota and the people weren't hearing what they wanted to hear. He was playing some of his more experimental jazz before he started doing the New Orleans thing. And people were walking out because they came to hear something just a little bit more confident to them. And I never will forget what Wynton said. He said, hey, don't just leave. He said, we're on stage, you can see us. So we can't hurt you, we're up here on stage. You can watch us. And if you watch us long enough, and if you listen long enough, you just might grow to love us. And if you go out and buy yourself some Kenny Garrett, and you listen long enough, your mind may expand to the point, and your ears may expand to the point that everything may grow to love Kenny Garrett, just like I do. Thank you very much.